Like lots of those dormant hobbies, especially the ones that you are no longer really connecting with, may represent good intentions. Like a promise you made to yourself, like, I'm really going to commit to this thing. And then it just doesn't work out. That's not a moral failing. People do that all the time. People do that with businesses. Like Donald Trump will start a business and then be like, not so much. And then he sells the business. Give yourself at least the grace of that, okay? Hello again, neurodivergent creatives. I'm so excited to talk to you today. And I also love hearing from you. So if you haven't already, I do have a few people who will email me about the latest episode or send me a DM on Facebook or Instagram. If that's not you, it could be. We could be like besties. So anytime that you love a quip or a quote or anything from the show, please reach out and let me know, because honestly, I love it. I'm a words of affirmation person. So makes me happy. And then we'll talk about things. And then, as I get to know you and your brand of humor, I'll start sending you memes. And that's just a win for everybody. So today I would like to build on the idea of dormant hobbies. We have talked about that before, and I will link to that prior episode in the show notes and the video description if you're watching this on YouTube. And so we talked already about the fact that neurodivergent people, especially those of us with ADHD, it's right there in the name, like attention deficit. It's more of like dopamine deficit, as we are coming to find out. But it's hard to just stay into one hobby. Like we go in phases. It'll be like, I'm super into sewing and I buy all the stuff to sew all my own clothes. And then just out of nowhere, I'm like, nope, that's illegal now. I can't do it anymore. My brain won't let me. Same thing with like watercolors or colored pencils, like anything, any single hobby, even reading. Sometimes I just don't read for a while. My brain's like, no, you don't want to read right now. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I do. Like, could we talk about this? And my brain's like, no reading. Go bake a pie. And then I go bake a pie, and then eventually the books come back. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, then surprise, this happens to a lot of us. But so building on the fact, we already talked about like how we judge ourselves for it, and there can be a lot of shame with it. And sometimes you really are just totally over it, and it's okay to let those hobbies go. And then other times it's okay to keep that hobby around for when the interest comes back. So regardless of whether you're keeping some hobbies, you are letting them all go free, yada yada, I have 6 ways to hibernate with your hobbies this winter. The fall and winter seasons for me are always a bit slower. I try to be a little more intentional and restful and do things that are like cozier. And sometimes that's watching Christmas movies on Netflix, but sometimes it is reading a book like under a bunch of blankies and just feeling really warm, cuddling with the dog or the cat on the couch while I read a book, or while like we watch a movie together, trying out new recipes, like baking things. Cookies come up a lot. Love making cookies. But then the pile of craft supplies is like, why don't you play with us? Come play with us. So let's do the best of both worlds. Let's do the cozy things, and then let's also maybe let your hobbies come out to play a little bit. So there's going to be 6 ways to hibernate with your hobby, or 6 ways to make sure your hobbies don't hibernate. I'm not entirely sure, but I like the alliteration of hobby hibernation, so we're talking about it. Idea number 1 is to make yourself like a little blind date kit. So get all the supplies for one hobby and put them in a box or a bag that you do not label. Or if you do label it something like Christmassy, fall, just sort of general vibes. Don't write all my colored pencils are in this box. You have now defeated the purpose of the blind date part. Because what we want to do is, if you're feeling like you want to do something creative, but you're not super sure what, or maybe you want to do like a craft night or a hobby night around your house with the people that you live with, this is a great thing to just sort of pull one of these boxes or bags out of a closet and be like, we're going to get into it. Here's what we're doing tonight. Maybe it's a puzzle. Maybe it's a kit to make earrings. Like you can just Give yourself a sort of fun little dopamine charge. Depending on how many you have, you could even like roll a die for it. That idea is coming up next. Surprise. Yeah, let me just hop into that one. Idea number 2 is a D20 list. So if you don't play role-playing games or Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, a D20 is just a 20-sided die. You roll it. You get a number between 1 and 20. What does this mean? This means that if you make yourself a list of 20 15-minute activities, right? These don't need to be big. Like little 10 or 15-minute forays into a hobby. So this could look like read one chapter, right? Like we're not doing sit down and read a book all day. Just little bursts of the dopamine. 20 things on a list. And then when you've got 10 or 15 minutes, you roll your D20. So I'll just roll mine. I got an 11. Then you would go to number 11 on your list and do that activity. Maybe you're going to repot your plants. I might not repot your plants in the winter, but whatever. You do you. Live your life. I'm not your boss. Write a poem. Organize your TBR shelf. Like there's so many like little baby things you can do. In fact, I'm going to make a D20 list and I'm going to make it like a downloadable doodad for you. So I'm going to make myself a note to make a downloadable doodad of a D20 list. Boom. The link for that downloadable doodad will be in the show notes. Thing number 3 is coming up with like low barriers to connect with your hobby. So sometimes just getting the stuff out and engaging in the hobby is too much for your brain to handle. It's like, no, can't do that. We're in cozy hibernation mode. I'm not doing it. Like if it can't come in the blanket fort with me, I'm not doing it. In this case, having a list of things that count as hobby related, like tangential to the hobby, such as following similar artists to your hobby or your craft that you do, following them and just watching their reels or reading a few of their posts, going on Pinterest and looking up ways to, I don't know, crochet a stuffed animal. You can do things that are hobby related and allow you to sort of dip a toe in without having to go pull all of your supplies out of the closet or off the shelf. For me, this is watching audition videos of like singing talent shows because I love them. And one of my hobbies is singing. And my voice teacher moved out of the state at the end of August, and I haven't gotten set up with a new voice teacher yet. I have one in place. We just have not said go yet because I've been really overwhelmed and doing all this other stuff all the time. I almost said a swear word, but I have found myself wanting to just watch some audition videos now and then. And then it gets like a little bit more. I want to watch more audition videos. And then I get really excited. I'm like, okay, I have to get back into my voice lessons and practice singing again because it makes me feel really good. And that low barrier of watching a YouTube video that reminds me of my hobby is the easiest way for me to get reconnected with it. Awesome. Thing number 4 is to implement a household hobby night. So in our house, hobby nights are Tuesdays and Thursdays. Do they always happen? No. But per our last episode about asking for what you want and need, at any point on a Tuesday or Thursday, I could say, can we do hobby night? And everybody is very agreeable to it. It's a miracle being in healthy relationship with other humans. Beautiful, gorgeous. So what this looks like is you just set aside a couple hours, the whole evening, whatever you want, whatever works. And everybody works on a hobby. Like they just do a hobby, or you can all do a hobby together. So if everybody has the same hobby, like let's say a jigsaw puzzle, that can be a great group activity. Or as is frequently the case in our home, somebody will play a video game, somebody will read a book. I'll probably read a book or maybe work on an art project. And somebody else will be making some like Warhammer 40K minis, right? Like the little wargaming tabletop miniature plastic guys. This house is full of thousands of dollars in tiny plastic men. It's fine. It's an expensive hobby, but whatever. The boys get joy from it, so it's fine. I get joy from getting my nails done. Same. Thing number 5 is to, if you are not already in practice of doing this, take yourself on an artist date once a week. Now, the artist date comes from The Artist's Way, which is a book / spiritual practice by written by Julia Cameron. And it's like a 12-week, I want to say 12 weeks, 12-week sort of program in like reconnecting to your innate creativity. I was astonished to find out when I finally did read the book that she basically promoted everything that I promoted. And I was like, oh, I could have like read this book and like had some backup for all these things I was like trying to express and being like, stop hustling, right? And she would say it a different way, but she's still saying stop hustling. And I'm like, oh, Julia Cameron, you were on my bookshelf the whole time. But the artist way specifically, or the artist date specifically, is for an hour a week. You take yourself out of the house, you take your inner artist on a date. Doesn't have to cost money. You can go walk and sit and look at nature. You can lay in the grass and look at the sky. You can walk your dog. Or like I would take myself shopping at a craft store. I'd be like, we're going shopping. I'm going to buy whatever looks cool to me. And that was a great artist date too. Sometimes I would just take myself out for lunch, like go to a restaurant that I've been wanting to try, but I haven't had the chance to. I'm sitting here like, why wouldn't I have the chance to? Because we also live in a household where I can be like, I want to go to this restaurant. And somebody in the house will be like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's go. It's pretty cool. I have a cool house. But the artist date, I'm so flexible with it. I know Julia Cameron is like a stickler for the rules. Like no one else is allowed to come on the artist date with you. But I don't know. I think it's totally fine if you want to connect with your family and go on an artist date for your whole family, or like you and your partner or you and your child. Like, why not? The spirit of it is connecting with your creativity. So as long as you get that done, I don't really care about the rest. Finally, thing 6 is doing an intentional like clearing ritual. So this is most relevant if you do want to let go of some hobbies. So this could look like lighting some incense or a candle that has a nice light, motivating scent, but also don't forget that you lit something on fire and walk away from it. This reminder, set a reminder on your phone to be like, make sure that candle's out. I know that you have ADHD because I have ADHD. I'll put on some music that makes you feel good, and then let yourself like get into all your hobby supplies and decide like what's really for me to keep. Like, what do I really want to keep around because it makes me feel good when I do connect with it? You keep those. And then what are the things that I look at it and I'm like, do I really want to crochet again? Nah. So you can let your yarn go, you know? This could also be a great opportunity to then set up like an in-person swap or something. Like if you have a crowd of in-person friends, or there's like a local art crafty type store in your area where they like let people host events, you could talk to them about hosting a craft swap. That way people can go in and anybody who wants your yarn can get some yarn. And then if they've got something you want, you can swap the yarn for their cool jewelry supplies, right? There's no reason that all of us ADHD freaks with our thousands of hobbies can't benefit from each other's. I'm going to go buy all the supplies for this. And then, oh no, I fell out of love with jewelry making. I did have a jewelry making phase. I had a lot of phases. I've never done leather. I've never done mosaics. My sister did mosaics. I do a lot of stuff though. I used to have a ton of supplies. Tissue paper, just tons of tissue paper. Don't know what I was saving all the tissue paper for. Just crafts, just to have it for crafts. If you're just holding on to something because of crafts, like this is your sign to just let that flow away from you. But making it sort of like an event feels better than just being like, gotta clean out my closet of crafts. How many times can I say craft in this episode? Like lots of those dormant hobbies, especially the ones that you are no longer really connecting with, may represent good intentions. You know, like a promise you made to yourself, like, I'm really going to commit to this thing. And then it just doesn't work out. That's not a moral failing. People do that all the time. People do that with businesses. Like Donald Trump will start a business and then be like, not so much. And then he sells the business. Give yourself at least the grace of that. Okay. You deserve a little bit of grace here. You deserve like a lot of grace, like all the grace. But don't beat yourself up over like, oh, this one thing that I bought some supplies for did not turn out to be my soulmate hobby. Very few things do, okay? You get to try multiple things. You get to try different foods to figure out what your favorite food is. You get to try different hobbies to figure out what your favorite hobbies are. I like reading young adult fiction from the 90s because it reminds me of a better time in my life when I didn't have bills. Shout out to the Animorphs. I just finished Tamara Pierce's Circle of Magic as well. And I'm like, this is just a rocking good time. There's some stress, there's some stakes, but like, I don't know. It's not true crime. That's too much for me. Can't do true crime. Need some nice light fantasy witchcraft. I love that for me. So whatever your light fantasy witchcraft is, find it. Be one with your hobbies or be 17 with your hobbies. Like, it's fine. So those were the 6 ways to hibernate with your hobbies / make sure that your hobbies don't hibernate forever. Number 1 was go on a blind date with your hobbies. So pack them up into bags or boxes that are unlabeled about what's within, and then surprise yourself. Thing number 2 was the D20 list, and there will be a downloadable doodad for you. Thing 3 is do things related to your hobby that have a very low barrier. So watching YouTube videos about your hobby, or following people on social media who talk about your hobby, etc. Thing 4 is implementing a household hobby night. Thing 5 is taking your inner artist on an artist date. And thing 6 is putting together an intentional clearing, cleansing, releasing energy to let go of any hobby supplies that you are ready to let go of. Great, awesome. Come talk about it with us in the Neurodivergent Creative Pod on Facebook. It is a free group. We have special interest calls ongoing. So there's a book club, there's a writing circle. We got our corporate baddies and our small business baddies. I don't know if they can both be baddies. They might have to fight about it. But we are constantly adding new special interest groups with like a weekly call for whatever group it is, right? We're going to rotate it so that we're not doing 15,000 things every week. We also have ongoing workshops, and there's a vault of workshop replays, including one about hobby hibernation, which is what we just talked about. And you can sign up for that replay vault for only $7 a month. So it's like one burrito to get a wealth of hobby adjacent content for you to watch on your own schedule. Perfect. Perfectly in line with everything we just learned. So I wish you a warm and cozy fall season if you are in a warm and cozy fall area of the world. If you are in a place where it is not cold outside and you don't need to be warm and cozy, then I wish you seasonally appropriate greetings. I love you. I hope that you stay hydrated. Reach out and tell me how much you love everything that I say because it feeds and sustains me. Okay, I love you. Bye.